Wait, are you gaming? On a Chromebook?
Yep. It's got a high-res 120Hz display, plus this killer RGB keyboard. And I can access thousands of games anytime, anywhere.
Stop playing.
What?
Get out of here.
Huh?
Yeah, I want you to stop playing and get out of here so I can game on that Chromebook.
Got it.
Discover the ultimate cloud gaming machine, a new kind of Chromebook.
Expressing your love can look many different ways. And with the right jewelry gift from Blue Nile, it can truly sparkle. Blue Nile's collection of classic diamond jewelry makes for the kind of gift that speaks volumes without saying a single word. Or switch things up with a sapphire piece sure to spark conversation. Either way, Blue Nile's diamond guarantee ensures you get the highest quality at the best price. Express yourself with Blue Nile, the original online jeweler, at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
The Blazers are getting rolling for the 2023-24 season. Media Day was Monday. The training camp starts Tuesday in Santa Barbara. I, Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian and OregonLive, will be at training camp. First, I was at Media Day today. I'm here to break it all down with Craig Birnbach. Craig, lots happened since we last talked. There was another trade, and Media Day just happened. Deandre Ayton spoke, Scoot, Ant, Billups, Cronin, and blah, 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 blah. It was just, they just kept flooding out of a secret trap door behind a kitchen at what's it called? Jack Ramsey's? What's it called? Yeah.
Something Jack's.
Right.
Just Jack's,
that's the name of this place. I'm sorry, whoever it is. I'd never been there before. I had to find it, and it was right next. Dr. Jack's. Sorry. It was right across from the Rose Garden
Dr. Jack's,
Moda Center, whatever we want to call it. As you can tell, I am just fried already. We haven't even started the preseason, but a lot to go over today. Let's just dive right in, man. Joe Cronin talked about the whole ordeal for the first time, other than his many conversations with Woj from ESPN, of course, addressing the Damian Lillard situation. People didn't berate him too much with questions. I think, a lot of people were ready to just turn the page and see what this new team can do. But, he talked about how tough it was on him, just, dealing with some of the drama, and also being patient and learning as he went, and that the goal was to do what was best for the Blazers franchise. But in the end, he's glad that they were able to get Dame into a great situation. He hopes that, fences, can be mended in the future. Dame is obviously still a little salty, but he's in a great spot. Anyway, just your impressions, Craig, on what Cronin had to say today.
As always, Cronin is maybe too honest at times. I mean, he admitted that he told Damian Lillard that there was no going back, and that Dame did actually come to him and talk about maybe staying with the Blazers. My thought was that was a little bit too late from Cronin. And it doesn't matter. Like, let me just say this. In the end, I think the Blazers and Dame end up in good places. Like, this is a best case scenario, in my opinion. Dame said he wanted to go to Miami, but if I'm a Dame fan and I want Dame to win a championship, he's in a better situation by being with the Bucks than with Miami. So in a way, the Blazers, I think, did him a favor by saying if championship really is the goal. The part I have issue with Cronin is what I said. The moment they drafted Scoot, they moved on from Damian Lillard. And after they drafted Scoot, Joe Cronin said, they're still looking to build around Damian Lillard, which I did not believe. And this, to me, is confirming that when Damian Lillard came back and said, okay, maybe I'll think about staying. And he was like, oh, no,
okay,
no.
But there was 2 months went by, between Vegas when he said the door would be always open and when they finally had this conversation. So a lot went down.
But the roster didn't change.
Well, no, because they were frozen trying to figure out what to do with Dame. They weren't going to go out and get players to play with Dame. But I'm not.
So what I'm saying is, if you truly wanted to build around Dame, you could have just said, great, that's what we wanted. Which, of course, I do not believe that was ever true. So to me, both things can't be true. In 2 months, nothing happened. So if you truly wanted to build around Dame, you could have said, "Oh, that's awesome, Dame. Welcome back."
Okay, but
that wasn't what happened. He drafted Scoot to trade Dame.
I'm not disagreeing with that part. I'm just saying, in those 2 months, Dame was demanding Miami. His agent Goodwin was out there telling teams, "Don't trade for our player." It got pretty nasty. So, for many reasons, I can see why Joe would say we can't walk this back. Now, I still believe they could have gone out and gotten Ayton and gotten a small forward and gave Dame a better team, and then come back and start continuing to do what they said they were going to do. But at the end of the day, I've saying this for years: if you can't contend with Dame, trade him so he can contend and get the assets and start over. And when people reacted to Joe Cronin telling Dame no and vilified Cronin, I was like, oh my God. Like, it went from like, oh my God, he's a genius. He made a great trade. Oh, this is so good, to he's the devil. I can't believe he did this to Dame. And it's like, no, it would have been crazy to bring Dame back for Dame. Like, for Dame, it would have been crazy. Even if he's still a little bent about not being in Miami, or even if he would have preferred to come back to Portland, it's going to take him a handful of games into the season when he says, "Oh my God, I'm playing relevant basketball again with the best 1-2 force in the league. Giannis and Joker's the only one probably on his level, maybe Embiid, I guess. I have a chance to win a title. Why would I want to stay in mediocrity and be miserable?" So Cronin did 100% the right thing, saying, "Nah, Dame." But also there was this animosity building. There were bad feelings that I don't think that Cronin wanted to walk back, nor should he have wanted to walk back.
I agree with that. My whole thing is you drafted Cronin, you didn't trade Sharpe. You wanted, you drafted Scoot, and you didn't trade Sharpe. So you were moving 100%. On from Dame. You should have just owned it then. And you should have told him that then and say, "Hey, clearly we're moving on." That's it. Look, I
believe wholeheartedly that they wanted Dame to do it. Okay. Now,
yes, and I don't think
that's now. I did have a conversation with someone with the Blazers who said that they were looking to try and make some trades into free agency, but it just didn't happen on day one because there was just too much going on, and they had to wait to see who would be available, etc. So that maybe Damian jumped the gun early, but I just no. I think Dame gave him a shot after the draft, before the draft, after the draft, last summer, blah 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 blah, and I agree with you. There was no point in going forward with that for anyone. And I've been on this, it's funny because I've been on the train for 3 or 4 years. Like, this is bound to happen. So let it happen. And at the end of the day, dude, it's like, it's absolutely a win-win for everybody. There's just, the only person in this whole saga who lost is Miami, because they saw Dame go to the Bucks and then Holiday go to Boston. So Miami's sitting there going, damn, we got kind of jacked in all of this.
Why do you hate us, Joe Cronin? That's what they're saying. Why do you hate us? Because no, they definitely got got hit the hardest. Not only did they not get the guy they wanted, but their two rivals are now a lot better than them in the conference, and they got hit the hardest. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Dame ends up in to me a much better situation than Miami. Let's talk about the trades. The final piece, probably not the final piece to this puzzle. The final piece of this puzzle before training camp opens, you would think, unless something happens tonight, is that they were able to make a trade with Boston, and they bring in Brogdon and Williams, and a 2024 protected pick from Golden State, and then a 2029 pick from Boston. Is that correct?
And pick from Bucks in 29.
So where are you now? Right. And obviously moving Drew Holiday out, the 33-year-old point guard. They bring back a 30-year-old point guard, two guard that doesn't have a place to play on this squad necessarily. Definitely not long-term. In the end, though, I will just say, yep, this is probably – it's hope. It's a lot of hope, but it is a better trade than what we saw that people speculated about Miami.
So
do you agree?
I've just been struggling with this the entire weekend because I just don't understand where people are coming from at all in any of this when they're comparing these things. First of all, what was discussed for months was Dame going to Miami, right? Dame, Miami. And then could you flip Hero into someone else, blah, 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 blah. What just happened was they involved Phoenix, Bucks, Boston. So, of course, if you do multiple deals with multiple teams, you can accumulate more than making one trade with one team. What we'll never know is, A, what they could have actually gotten from Miami, B, what other teams could have gotten involved to help accentuate that, and then C, whom they could have flipped in those deals to get someone else, i.e. the Ayton trade, which was discussed separately from Damian, I've been told by multiple people, and could have been spun in with Miami or other teams, because at the end of the day, all Phoenix took back from the Bucks was Grayson Allen. Now, the most hilarious part about this is the whole picks thing, because I was told for 2 months that Miami's picks suck. We don't want Miami's picks in 28 or a swap in 29 or in 30, because they're going to always be good, right? Even though by 28, Dame and Butler would be done or in their late 30s, right? So now you have a more a pick that's closer, obviously, and that has value. But you have the Warriors pick. Are the Warriors going to be bad, Craig?
So this year, they potentially they could. I mean, the West is so stacked.
They're not going to be
but
bad.
Probably not. I agree.
Be a great pick.
It's not going to be a lottery pick.
So Boston in 2029. So if Miami wasn't going to be bad post Butler and Dame, is Boston going to be bad with Jaylen Brown and Tatum still in their prime? They're only 26 and 25. So they'll be what, 31 and 30? So is that pick going to be good, Craig?
We have
the
no
odds
idea.
are no. But the odds are no. Would you rather bank on post Miami, post Butler and Dame, or the Celtics still with their best two players in their prime? I think I'd rather roll with post Miami. So that pick's probably not going to be good. Then you got Milwaukee in 29. Now that could be, I don't know. We're talking about Giannis being 34. Dame probably gone, but Giannis is still going to be a force. I'm sure they're going to add around him. So flip a coin on that. Then we got the swaps. 2028 swap. Is that going to be any good? I don't think so. Giannis at 33 is still going to be a beast. And then 2030 is your best chance at maybe having a swap if you're way better than Milwaukee in 2030, when Giannis maybe is starting to show his age and you're really good. So my point there is that the whole pick thing is it's a worse situation of picks. There's zero doubt about that. So we go to the players. Kamara, mystery. Brogdon, redundant. You don't need him. Maybe you can flip him for a first. Williams, a very good defensive player, not a good offensive player, and injury history is not good. It all comes down to Ayton. If Ayton hits and he flourishes, I don't care what happens with everything else. Everything else it's just gravy at that point, or who cares? Because if he hits, you're golden. If he doesn't hit, if he's the same guy he was in Phoenix, then this whole thing tumbles like a house of cards.
So I agree with you completely. I said this is all based on
Correct.
Hope. Because the picks,
right.
It's all based on hope. But you are hoping on a 25-year-old center who has skills. To me, that's better than hoping on I don't know what else you could have hoped for better than that. So that's why I'm saying it's a better trade than the Miami thing.
I think just all the Miami only, but
hope.
Maybe you could have been had with a Miami trade is what I'm saying. But go ahead.
And if that is possible and maybe even probable. But in the end, that was you're trying to say, which I get, that trade was totally separate. But it's not totally separate. Because they did get Grayson Allen.
It could have been done
and that made the trade happen.
From the Bucks weren't required. Miami or other teams could have been involved because all they got was Grayson Allen, and Grayson Allen is infinitely replaceable around the league, is what I'm saying. Right? You can find other partners. So what we do? So one of the biggest
agreed.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, they also, we sit here and just say they just traded Dame. I saw someone say something like, talking about getting Ayton for Nurkic
Right.
and
People
and
no.
And I'm like, but you traded Damian Lillard like that. That's part of this. Like,
well, yeah, but most of the assets,
the
assets you traded for Ayton were the high end asset. The most important asset was Nurkic. Right.
So agreed. And I cried and yelled for them to trade Nurkic. That deal would have been great if we were not moving on from Lillard. You would have been like, oh my goodness, This is something, right? And it's not. So I just think the picks were all going to be. You weren't trading Damian Lillard to a terrible team that was going to guarantee you a lottery pick. What this also does, in my opinion, it probably guarantees you keeping your own lottery pick, which is something.
Yeah.
And I have no idea.
Yeah,
that's something to me. And if you go back 5 years and you do the same thing that you just did, the rundown of the teams, oh my gosh, like you can't even think about it. Brooklyn, oh my God, they're nothing like they were. Philly's about to lose, Harden. God knows what the Clippers are going to be like in 5 years. So the Warriors to me have been pretty consistent, but there's a chance that in 5 years they are completely flipped. And looking to rebuild.
But that doesn't mean anything to Portland. Portland has a 2024 pick. Yeah.
No, they don't. Right, because they're not part of this.
Oh, Boston.
I'm like, Boston could be flipped.
Maybe.
But
so could Miami. That's my point, though. Is that the picks, people are acting like the picks are so much better, and that's driving me nuts because that's just a lie. Okay?
They're not.
So the other thing is, you mentioned Nurkic and whatever. So again, we were talking about Dame to Miami. What could you get? And people are making that comparison to 4 trades and Nurkic and Little being gone, who are valuable assets in their own right in different levels. Yes. They were gone. They're gone as well on this. So it's just funny watching people spin it how they want to spin it to make it sound however they want to make it sound without just being truly factual about what happened. Now, here's the thing about Miami. Okay. If it was just 2 firsts, let's just say the base was 2 firsts and Hero. Hero's flipped for a first, that's 3 firsts. That's the same thing as 1 first and Holiday and flipping Holiday for 2 firsts, right? So it's just like it's just the same thing. So if they could have, what was on the table allegedly, it was 3 firsts, Hero, right? Maybe 2 swaps, and then the young players. So if you had gotten that and flipped Hero for a player, sent that player to Phoenix, got that 4th first, and then involved another, you still could be pretty much in the same situation. At the end of the day,
same spot. Yep.
Cronin just stonewalled Miami. Period. Like he's just like, we're not dealing with you. That said, it cannot be ignored that even though Portland didn't engage and negotiate, Miami did not put its best foot forward. It wanted to just say, okay, well, we're talking about this. What do you think? And Blazers just said, screw you, we're done. Miami had to come in harder. And that's what the problem was. The offer was so low, the offer, I use air quotes, was so low that Portland didn't even want to engage, is what I was told what other people reported. So that was, to me, Portland just saying, we're not going to engage. And then there was talk out there about they wanted everything. Well, everything meant 5 firsts, 3 swaps, all 3 of the young forwards, Hero. Well, of course, that's ridiculous. And you didn't get that in what you ended up with. So clearly you could have come down from that, but you wouldn't talk. But that said, if you're Miami, you got to come harder, right? You got to come with like a bigger package if you truly wanted Dame, because it was clear that Cronin wasn't messing with you unless you came to him first with a huge deal. Okay. So I don't blame Cronin for that thing entirely. I blame Miami as well. And Miami kind of screwed itself because it should have been more aggressive because it lost Dame to the Bucks and then Holiday goes to Boston. At the end of the day, though, I think this is a solid package. It all comes down to Ayton, man.
Yes.
Period.
And optically, Cronin looks good.
Well, clearly, everyone's giving him A+ and saying how he pulled this great haul, and they're making the false equivalency comparisons, which is in his favor because it makes it look better than it did. But I still have to say this. So let's shift this to Ayton. So Ayton was great today. He called himself DominAyton. Right? He says, I'm all about dominance. I'm here to be dominant. He believes this is a fresh start for himself. He's playing for a franchise that wants him, that means a lot, that cares about him. Billups is ready to pour into him. Cronin believes he's just entering, his prime and that he could blossom and become more than he has been or was with Phoenix. But still, there's still red flags with the guy about his motor. about, you look at all the analytics, he's not really that much better, if better at all, than Nurkic, according to some numbers. However, he can finish around the rim. He's got more athleticism and way more upside. So it's all about him, man. And I think playing on a team with a lot less pressure to win, I think being surrounded by younger players where now he can assume more of an alpha role instead of, deferring to Paul and Booker and later Durant, and maybe feeling too much pressure to be a marquee center on a championship team, which he just probably wasn't ready to be on a nightly basis. Now he can sort of ease into his role. There's not as much pressure. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. And I do believe there's a chance we could see Ayton blossom here as Markkanen did at Utah.
Yeah, I agree with all that. My problem is now you got to worry about what's going to happen in 4 years when this team is ready to compete. Right now he's 29. How's his body doing?
They're going to have to pay him $50 million. Yeah. That's the funny thing. Like if they expect him, if he's going to be as good as they expect him to be, you're going to be giving him a 5-year, $260 million contract in 3 or 4 years. Yeah, I think it's.
And he already makes double what Nurkic.
No one wants to talk about that.
So that's why you got.
No one wants to talk about. I don't know how many times I saw they got rid of Nurkic's contract. That's amazing. I'm like, Ayton makes twice as much, guys. But okay, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. I get why getting Ayton was worth the risk. And if he does blossom, we also have no idea what the salary cap's going to look like and what the situation is. That's the part of this that's fun right now, but won't be so much fun for Blazer fans all the time. A lot of what went down at Media Day was talking about all their struggles and how these guys are going to struggle. And struggle means lose. Let's get that out there. That means lose. And this team has just went into, and no Blazer fan wants to hear it, but another 5-year plan. I mean, this team has no window of winning a championship in the next 3 years. I mean, it just doesn't exist. So you've basically, told people like, oh, let's go enjoy the same thing we enjoyed when we were we were supposed to enjoy it with Odin, LaMarcus, and Roy, and that didn't happen. And then you were supposed to enjoy it with
LaMarcus, maybe
with Lillard and LaMarcus, and that didn't happen. And the window of that starting five that was balanced with Batum and Wesley Matthews and LaMarcus and Lillard. It's just hope. That's what you're living on. And I guess, what I say is having hope of eventual championship, I guess it's better than living in what we've lived in for the last basically 8 years, which is they're going to be all right. But, and to be honest, the last 2 years just flat out quit. With no, trying to stink on purpose with nothing to look forward to in developing. I mean, we spent so much time talking about Nasir Little possibly being a starter, but we never thought he'd be an all-star. We were like, well, if he could develop into a decent NBA player, then you got something for a cheap price. That wasn't that exciting. You got Josh Hart for 2 weeks and it was like, oh my God, the guy's the greatest. And now he's a Knick, so at least now you get to say, and if you're a young fan who didn't experience this over and over again, you're like, okay, now we got a chance. We got Scoot, we got Sharpe, we got Ayton. So now you hope. And then you got to hope that Sharpe wants to stay. And you got to hope that Scoot wants to stay. And you got to hope that Simons, you either trade him or someone else eventually to make this team an eventual contender. And we have no idea what that NBA is going to look like when they're ready, because the age of the guys that are contending now, when you look at, we're saying Milwaukee, obviously Dame's in his 30s. Giannis will be older. It's not like his body's been perfect. Jokic will still be great at 50 because he doesn't have to run or jump.
You just stand at half court.
But you know what I'm saying? We have no idea. We have no idea what the NBA is going to look like when this team can potentially develop into a contender. And we have zero idea who's going to be the owner and who's going to be the GM and probably the coach. So it's enjoy this year because there's going to be a lot of dunks for both teams. And you're going to be super excited when they upset the Lakers, at the buzzer in one of these games, and we'll just enjoy it.
But wait, before you give out your prediction or anything, we're going to get to that. Let's
okay. Slow it down.
Because there's going to be some good stuff to discuss there. I just want to discuss one more thing before we get to that. The guard situation.
Yes.
So my conversations with people and based on what I heard today, Ant's going to be running this team. And Ant should be running this team. Now, is he going to run it from the right? Is he going to run it from the two guard? Or is he going to run it from the point? That's going to depend on Scoot's development in the next month. If Scoot is just too good to keep off the court because he's, they're raving already about just in the workouts they're having about his ability to see the floor, penetrate, kick it to guys, either kick it to guys out for jump shots or to pass off the guys inside for layups and dunks. So it might be a situation where it's like he's too good to keep off the floor. We start Ant at the 2, but then you're small, but you could put Sharpe at the 3, but I'm hearing Matisse might be the front runner there because they want some defense on the court and a little bit of size. He's 6'5" at least. But we've talked about this before, but just what do you want to see from that trio? Moving on to the last time.
Who starts? No, like who starts? They're going to play. They all got to play 30 minutes a game. You know what I mean? Like Scoot's got to play unless he stinks, and he's not going to stink compared to everyone. Sharpe has to play unless he stinks. He's not. Simons is the best player on the team right now. You got to play him. So I think it sucks to be Simons, to be honest, in this setup because you lost. You've been in the league now. You're only 25. But you've been in the league a while. Like this isn't, year 3 for you. Your team's going to stink. You find your whole thought process was, well, either they're going to trade me or they're going to move Lillard and I'm going to be the guy. And then they went and drafted the other guy. So he's a lead guard. He doesn't want to play 2. You didn't draft Scoot to play 2. So to me, there's no long-term fit here. So I would not be shocked, but you don't want to lose, 60 games. So you want to have guys like Simons who could score, 40 and knows how to play NBA basketball. Like no one thinks he's a great defender, but at least he's played defense in the NBA. Like Sharpe has now played it a little bit, but we saw what happened to him in his first year. He couldn't even stay on the court because he couldn't figure out the concepts of the NBA defensively. So I mean, if you want to start, to me, I don't understand why you wouldn't start all 3.
Well, here's the thing. Between point guard, shooting guard, and small forward, you have, 144 minutes? Is that right?
96 plus
144
48
minutes.
So, 144 minutes.
Divided by 4 is 30 something, 33, 34.
Yep, 30 something minutes, 36 minutes. I think
you have
36,
plenty of minutes for all 4 of those guys, counting Matisse. So it's just, just figure out different.
There are some optics about starting,
but
I mean we know that.
Yeah, I mean,
but who cares? So let Thibault come off the bench. You paid him. He doesn't think he's not. He doesn't have dreams of being an all-star anymore.
But I think
you're not going to win anyway.
I think they're going. Okay, I think they're going to go into the season putting their best foot forward to try and win, right? And I think that's the way you do it. And so for me, I'm going Ant, Sharpe, Matisse. That's how I'm starting. Scoot's your primary backup at the point. Ant can play some 2. Sharpe can play some 3. And you can even start Matisse, but play Sharpe more at the 3. You can also put Grant at some 3, and Williams comes in and plays some 4, although Williams is not going to start at the 4, I don't believe. He's the backup 5, then can play some 4. So I just think you just start that way and then just let it ride, right? And here's the other thing. You still, like you said, have a long-term issue in the backcourt because Ant is going to want to be the guy on a team and run a team. Scoot is obviously who you drafted to be that guy. There's no way in hell this team goes forward starting those 2 in the backcourt for the long term because now we're right back to what we endured for the last 10 years, which is a small backcourt. My God, no. And even Sharpe is, not even quite 6'5", but at least he's close to 6'5", and he plays like he's taller because of his athleticism and his length. So showcase Ant, and then maybe you trade Ant. And if Ant goes out there and crushes it, someone's going to come a-calling. We want that guy to run our team. And now you trade him, maybe, hopefully, for a small forward, an impact, a small forward who's as good as Ant is a guard to complete your starting five. That to me,
and
he can be whatever age you want him to be. Well, under 25, preferably. Yeah, you don't want to
be over 30.
That doesn't make any sense.
It can't be over 30.
That to me is the best path forward. I don't even think it's debatable. I don't even think it's close. Like that's what needs to happen. Now, if it doesn't happen and you just end up juggling these three for the next 5-6 years, I give them no chance to ever contend because you're just not going to do it. Because you're going to have to move some assets to get the guys you need. And Grant probably too, because he's 29 at some point, are the next pieces to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you're just, again, you're in hope because you still hope that Sharpe takes another step and shows that he's, close to an all-star. And you hope that Scoot is a guy that you think could be an all-star. Because if those don't work, you want to keep Simons because we know he's close to being, he's an elite NBA player. So, of course. And right now you got Brogdon and you got to play him. So if you don't trade Brogdon, what are you doing with that? So they're saying, at media day, and of course, why say anything different? Oh, we're going to let him start and play. And again, none of this matters. Like this whole season doesn't matter. Like win or loss. They're going to start out
trying to win.
Certainly the first, whatever, try all you want. Just don't. Like you could try because you're not good. Like it's not, of course they're going to try. Again, it's the old saying, players don't tank, franchises do.
Craig, make it stop. It hurts my head.
Well, I mean, you want to lose. You don't want to make the playoffs. Your best chance of winning a championship is hitting a home run in the lottery, whatever position it is. I mean, and you've already played that game. I mean, you literally let Damian Lillard leave because you tried to win the lottery 2 years in a row. So, like, if you stop now, like, you're crazy because you just let the best player in franchise history walk so that you could play the lottery game. So to not play the lottery game when you stink is silly. I mean, you sat Damian Lillard the last 11 games of the year to lose so you could get a lottery pick. He said okay, and then you got his replacement. 2 years ago,
I know it's so messed up.
Truth. Like,
dude,
like some of the stuff is so
messed up, man. Like no matter, like I don't blame Cronin for everything he did, but some of it was, it was a little weak, and that was weak. But anyway, go ahead.
Again, tank, trade Dame. Whatever you want to say about Cronin, that's his resume. That's his resume right now. And it doesn't mean that it'll stay that way, but if he get fired tomorrow, it's tank, trade Dame for a bunch of assets. It was like, he did a great job in this trade, and he got us Scoot Henderson. I'm like, he got you Scoot Henderson. Like, okay, yeah, he convinced the team. Like I would have drafted Scoot Henderson.
Everyone knew that was the pick. People were wondering why he didn't go number 2. And that's probably only because Charlotte has a Melo. So it was a no-brainer pick that anyone would have made, and you got there by cheating. It's cheating. It is.
And the other thing is, like, no one wanted to give Neil O'Shea credit for Damian Lillard. That was a more difficult pick. There were more choices there, and they're like, well, it wasn't him. Chad Buchanan, he already decided. You're like, well, if you can't give Cronin credit for taking the most obvious pick ever, and then say, like, oh, you can't get.
But the O'Shea thing,
Lillard.
So it was already decided, but he was the GM when he took over. So they told him, you have to take Lillard. Yes. You have to take him no matter what. I don't think that was true.
I think he was the GM. He could have taken someone else.
Anyway, whatever. That's old. Yes. That's old news.
I'm just saying, you can't. Look, I got here right for the Pritch slap stuff. Nobody loves winning GM battles more than Portland fans. Like, it's like, I don't care. Like, what are you talking about? Winning games is the ultimate. Kevin Pritchard, all those trades were the greatest trades in the world that produced nothing. You know what I mean? Like, yes, Rudy, oh my God, he was so great until he fell, he got Trevor Ariza knocked him down. Everything that Kevin Pritchard did was brilliant for a while. No. It didn't produce anything.
I remember, we've got 4 bench players who can start for almost any other team in the league. I was like, what? What the hell are these people smoking? Then why aren't they 65 and again, 17?
When you make trades, and you say you win or lose trades, there's one goal in sports, and that is winning. So if your goal is to win a championship and you never did, none of these trades ended up being that way. And the Pritch slap stuff everyone was exploding about how everything they did was great. In my mind, and I would have drafted Greg Oden, and I would have been wrong. You know what I mean? Like everyone's like, well, everyone would have done it. Yeah, well, that just means they're all wrong. Because guess what? Drafting Kevin Durant was the right move, not Greg Oden. So I'm not saying I would have done the right thing, but like in the end, your job is to make that is a monumental mistake that sent the Blazers in the wrong direction, as opposed if they drafted Kevin Durant. Now look. Seattle drafted Kevin Durant. Exactly. They didn't win it either. So, it's all these things. I'm just saying, I'm sick and tired of hearing about winning trades in that when most of your assets don't even come to fruition for 3 or 4 years. Like, who knows where they're going to be? But at least, to Cronin's credit, he made a decision to rebuild. He just didn't admit it for a little bit, but now they have. So we enjoy the rebuild. We look at a roster that is completely and totally like you look at who's starting. Like they just brought in Brogdon. And what's he going to do?
I mean, Chauncey wants. Play? They need some vets. Chauncey's desperate to win. He wants to win. They need some vets. Brogdon's a vet, but he plays a position where you have 2 young guys who you have to play. Like he's your 3rd string point guard, right? So what? I mean, we just came up with 36 minutes for 4 guys. If we took. If we only played Matisse 20, there's 16 right there for Brogdon, right? He's going to want more than that, or he's going to be pissed. He's going to trade me somewhere where I can play. My Bulls need a point guard. Send him there. Anyway, okay, let's shift now to our way too early prediction. Huh?
And I'm 30.
Right. Let's shift 30. Now to our way too early prediction for this team. Obviously, you've already written them off. You have them stinking and tanking, trying to get a higher lottery pick again next year. What is your predicted record?
30. I'd say between 32 and 32 on the low end, 38 on the high end.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go as low as 25 to 34.
Whoa,
that's
real bad.
Big 25, 34. But we're gonna do this again after the preseason and we see more. But yeah. So okay, they left last season saying we're not long enough. They got longer around the rim. That's huge. They're still small in the backcourt. They said they needed more veterans. I mean, adding Williams was huge. Matisse will play the entire season. If Brogdon stays, I guess that's a little bit more veterans, but you're still super young. Your 3 most important pieces are super young. So the depth just really isn't there. It's still kind of young, or guys who want to get out like Brogdon. Williams is nice, but I just don't see the overall depth there from a veteran standpoint.
Yeah, he's nice, but he doesn't ever play the actual game of basketball,
Williams,
which is important.
Yeah, I mean, injury history hasn't been good. So when I say 25, that's the West is just ridiculous. It's just super deep.
It's good.
And as talented as this team is, proven veteran NBA players on teams that are trying to win are going to be able to manipulate this crew. They just are. And, the last couple of seasons when they had everything right, I would look at certain games and be like, oh, yeah, those should be a couple wins, or that should be a win. That's going to be tough. Now, I think every team in the NBA is going to be like, oh, the Blazers are coming. That's a win. That's where they're going to be. I think OKC's ahead of them. I think Utah's ahead of them, of the non-playoff teams. I just – unless if Ayton blossoms and flourishes and Ant takes a big jump and Scoot's amazing and Sharpe makes a big jump, maybe you get to 34. But I think they're going to be at around low 20s, 25, and then they're going to turn off the switch right after the All-Star break. And that's why it could be as low as 30 or less, because they're going to shut it off. If they played the entire season on through full, trying to win every single game and didn't get injured, or suffer serious injuries, then I could put them at 35 because I think there is some talent there. But yeah, I'm gonna go 25 to 34 right now until I see what they do in the preseason. But it could.
Yeah, so we're in the same world. You went into a lot.
Yeah, I'm counting
more details about things. I mean, I do think that Ayton, Simons, and Grant are
Yes.
NBA players. So when I look at the Blazers last year, they won 33 games and they lost the last 11 on purpose, right? So, well, not quite. They were like 1-9 or whatever. I don't know what it was, but it was really bad, right? 1-10, 1-9. So that's the only thing. You're right. If they turn it off and try to lose, I just don't think they'll have to try that hard because I don't think Dallas is going to finish. Is going to be 38 and 44 or whatever. And I think I don't think New Orleans is going to. Well, I don't think New Orleans is going to start so slowly. But you're right. The truth is, with such a stacked West, there's going to be a lot of losses for a lot of teams because there's not going to be dominant teams. So they might be the ones that end up being way down there in the 20s. But yeah, I would say 32 would be where I go with it. But yeah, bottom line is I'm going to stick with the fact is Blazer fans should be real careful about what they want. I think the worst thing that can happen is this year, other than like terrible injuries to that affect entire careers, is losing a lottery pick. I just think because then what's the point?
Oh yeah, if you make the playoffs,
you're trying to find
you lose a whole lottery pick, which you're 100%, and that to me that comes off the books from these trades you made because you lost that pick. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. They need to. It's in their best interest to not make the playoffs, so that's why around 30 wins is in their best interest, and that's why I think that the tanking will be on, unless if Ant is. Like I said, all these guys take a big leap, and you got Ant and Ayton running around out there playing high-end basketball, like borderline all-star basketball, then you're going to win a lot of games. But you're not going to win enough because you still won't have enough to deal with teams that are just going to be flat-out better, older, more experienced, and more on a path to success that maybe you should want, and then they're going to shut things down. So anyway. Anything else?
Well, I know you're off. Tell the people where you're going.
Yeah, I'm leaving in the morning. They have their first practice tomorrow. I'll be there through Friday. They don't let us watch other than the last few minutes, which is so corny. God, I hate modern sports. I remember watching practices back in the day. You can't watch practice. Like, just make it so people know they can't tweet out stuff or what have you. And anyway, whatever. It's lame. So we can watch them shoot at the very end. So I'll give you a report on Scoots shooting against air at the very end of practice. I know.
What great form he had with no one guarding him.
October 10th, I think, they have their first preseason home game against New Zealand, I think. Then they host the Suns. Then they go on the road for a couple preseason games. And then they got the Clippers on the 25th. It's here, baby. Let's roll.
Let's go. Let's see how we can get to that 30-win total.
Maybe they'll surprise. Anyway, all right. I'm an exhausted Aaron Fentress who feels like it's already December after all the Damian Lillard drama. Trying to gear myself up for a long season filled with alley-oops and excitement, but many L's. Thanks for listening to the Blazer Focus podcast. Please give us a positive rating, even though I'm being Debbie Downer right now, and click that subscription button, and we will be back soon.